Hey everybody, Charlie Niner 2 here, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. When we last left off, the judge was about to make his ruling, but we pointed out a burn on the victim's right wrist that we saw in new evidence. So now we have to find some link between that burn and the case. Let's continue and see if we can do this. This is the moment of truth. It's time to find some evidence that proves what that burn really means. So then, the defense will now present its evidence to the court. The evidence that demonstrates an inextricable connection between the victim's burn and this trial. Well, that's going to have to be this one right here, right? Let's look at it. Review scene. Let's examine. There's the burn. We can see right there. But what does review scene mean? Q? This is the scene. Okay. Turn to question. It's this one right here. One with the eaten steak. She said that was her that ate it, so let's present this. Yes! What's this, counsel? Yet another print? Yes, Your Excellency. I believe photographic prints are an amazing invention. When we humans look at a scene, we miss things. But in a photograph, things we may have overlooked at the time are recorded forevermore. Do hurry up, rookie. What are you trying to say? To inconvenience this poor lady any further really would be quite inexcusable. Actually, we may need you to stay with us a little longer if you don't mind, Miss Brett. You see, it's very clearly visible in this other photograph. How did the victim come to have that unusually shaped burn on his wrist? The reason is recorded here forevermore. What? How? Objection! You can't fool me with your little bluffs, boy. If that's your game, then let's see how it plays out. Show the court exactly what you mean. What is it in this photograph that explains the reason for the victim's burn? I got it. It's right over... Oh, I gotta use the right there. Present. The beefsteak? Actually, the point is the metal plate the steak was served on. The plate? Ah! Your Excellency, are you all right? As you can see, there's an emblem on the plate. I would guess it's some sort of trademark of Le Carnaval. Ah! This emblem on the plate and the victim's burn are exactly the same shape. Ah! Ryu, you genius! You're spot on. Which means the victim must have suffered this burn while he was present at the restaurant. Well, what does that matter? I guess we'll find out. But even if that's the case, we can't know if it happened on the day of question or not. Could have been the day before or the day before that. It most likely happens at some other unrelated time. Well,
Objection!
Get him, Kazuma. Sadly, Professor Alchi, the chances of that are extremely slim. Thanks. Why? Not Professor, Prosecutor. The outline of the burn is clearly discernible. Such a serious injury would have caused quite a commotion in the restaurant. Wouldn't you agree, Inspector Hosonaga? Can't imagine having missed such a terrible disaster, certainly. But I would say, looking at the picture of the wound, that it wasn't suffered very long ago. And although it's not a particularly large burn, it's extremely well defined, as the defense just pointed out. This was no mild burn, that's for sure. Can you be more specific, Inspector? Well, let's see. If the plate was at around 90 degrees centigrade, a burn like that would have taken around 3 seconds. How are you an expert on this? It's inconceivable that a victim wouldn't have let out a scream of pain then. Been investigating at the restaurant for several weeks already, but I've not heard anyone scream at all. As the head waiter of La Carnival, I can testify to that without hesitation. But you're a detective, not a waiter.
Yes!
There you have it. Something isn't right here. As the detective said, anyone who burnt themselves on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds would scream in pain. There's no question of that. And yet Inspector Hosonaga never heard the professor scream, not on that day or any before it. That's right. And the strange thing is, on the day he was shot, I didn't hear him cry out either. What are you suggesting? Well, if the professor had carelessly laid his wrist on the plate for anything like 3 seconds that day, that would be beyond careless, I think, counsel. Then the rest of us in the restaurant, myself, the sergeant, and the old antiques dealer, all of us would, without any question, have heard him scream. Wouldn't you agree, Prosecutor Algie? Well, yeah, I suppose. So the question is, why didn't a single person hear Dr. Wilson scream? It's because he was dead already. I almost don't believe it. Ryu, do you think? Can it really be true? I never dreamt we'd arrive at such a conclusion like this, but I'm starting to think that maybe we've been led into a terrible trap. There's only one explanation I can think of that makes sense of this apparent impossibility. On the day in question, when he suffered the burn to his wrist, Dr. Wilson, he was already deceased. No man can remain silent while his wrist was burning on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds. That's clearly impossible. Apart from in one particular situation, counsel, are you suggesting? Yes, it's only possible post-mortem if the man was already dead. Already? Dead? Everybody's so surprised. Knowing what we know now, it's the only possible explanation. When the beefsteak was brought to Dr. Wilson's table that day, the professor was already dead. That's madness. Order, please. Counsel, explain this absurd notion at once. The victim was killed by a gunshot. That's right. That's absolutely right, Your Excellency. This is just another ridiculous ploy by the rookie student, but clearly he has no grasp of the facts.
Objection!
Well, there's no autopsy for him. No, Prosecutor Algie, as Jewess has no grasp of the facts. I beg your pardon? As soon as it became apparent that the victim had suffered that burn while at the restaurant, this whole case was turned upside down. Or have you not grasped that yet, finger point of justice? Ugh. Your Excellency, the court must hear from this witness again. If it's true, as we now believe, that the victim was already dead before the gunshot was heard, it's highly likely that Miss Brett knows something about it. Incredible. I certainly didn't anticipate this twist of events. What a twist! I'm sorry to say, Miss Brett, that you will have to forget your luncheon engagement. But, Your Excellency, the justice system in our country may be in its infancy, but rest assured, all reasonable doubt must be dispelled before I am prepared to pass judgment. Thank you, Your Excellency. Silence. Oh, she's still smiling. What was that smile? Yes, of course. So she can speak Japanese. I mean, I'd be delighted to help. Especially if it helps relations between my country and yours. Miss Brett, you speak Japanese? Well, of course I do. I am studying your country after all. But then, why have you been speaking through an interpreter until now? My mother tongue, the Queen's English, is the most refined and elegant language in the world. As a gentlewoman, I try to avoid speaking in your vulgar tones as much as possible. Wow, racist. But it seems the men in this land possess none of the chivalrous virtues of English gentlemen. So I can see that I shall have to lower myself to communicating with you all on your own level. Oh, well, you are the epitome of a true English gentlewoman. How do you know this? We are truly honored by this. This lavish consideration. Whoops, I clicked it. I didn't mean to. I see. In that case, Miss Brett, I will now ask you to testify in your own words about the events leading up to the death of the victim, Dr. Wilson. So, we're finally going to hear her own words on the matter. Things are getting interesting, Ryu. Witness testimony. The victim's death. Death is in quotation. Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burnt his wrist like that. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses in a toast. As far as I've heard, the post-mortem report showed no other possible cause of death beside the gunshot. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me. Okay. But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques probably wouldn't pick up on it anyway. That most captivating and beautiful testimony will go down in the Supreme Court's history. Thank you. Easy does it. I hope that is the last time I'll have to sully my lips with the coarse tones of your unbecoming tongue. Racist! Oh, forgive me. I do hope I haven't insulted anyone. Not at all, not at all. It's a delight merely to hear you speak, dear lady. And it seems very clear from your testimony that this boorish talk of the victim's burn is utterly irrelevant. I will be speaking to your country's Minister of Justice about what has happened here today. The Minister of Justice? May that irritating little bully of a student be given the harshest punishment possible. Amen. Are you praying? Was that a prayer then? Okay. Well, you have to forgive the irritation, Miss Brett, and put up with a cross-examination now. Alright, we gotta pressure her. I expect you've noticed that this little bully of a student, as you put it, doesn't miss much. I'm sure I don't need to remind you, counsel, that this will be your final cross-examination in this trial. If you fail to demonstrate any problems with this witness's testimony, I will be ruling on the case immediately. Is that clear? What was it? What was that? Just say yes. Yes, Your Excellency. Why did you slap your face? Then you may proceed with the cross-examination. Cross-examination! The victim's death. Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burnt his wrist like that. Press!
Yes!
But his hand was on the searing hot plate for at least 3 whole seconds. You can't not have noticed. Do you think so? Let me ask you something. Sorry? Ever since I arrived in his courtroom, and even still now, the fly on those unsightly black trousers of yours has been wide open. You can't not have noticed, can you? Huh? What? Ah! Haha, what fun. You hadn't realized. The dear lady is absolutely right. As your friend, you've embarrassed me as well as yourself, Ryu. Why didn't you tell me? Dr. Wilson was a true English gentleman. He chose honorable silence over a vulgar scream. Can your tiny brains imagine such a thing? Why are you such a... Oh yes, I think my tiny brain can.
Yes.
Well, I can't. Anyway. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses in a toast. Let's press that.
Yes.
I really don't see a reason not to press. As you testified before, you were drinking a carbonated water, is that right? Dr. Wilson was only permitted to drink water at that time, if you remember. Which explains why he ordered that drink, correct, waiter? Exactly as you say, sir. Although... Whether or not the professor actually drank any of the water when I delivered the steak to the table, I'm afraid I don't remember that. Damn you. I have enough English to understand that, at least. For the benefit of others in the court, it means, bless you. Okay. I think it means the exact opposite. Anyway. As far as I've heard, the post-mortem report showed no other possible cause of death besides a gunshot. Press that.
Yes.
Yes, it's written here in the paperwork. Fatal hemorrhage from the ballistic trauma. So he didn't die from the gunshot directly, he died from bleeding out. Yes. Luckily for all of us, a little burn on the wrist isn't going to kill us. And there were no other signs of trauma on the victim's body to indicate some other cause of death. It could only have been the bullet from your gun that put an end to this innocent man's life. But it doesn't make sense. The burn must have happened straight away when the plate was first brought to the table by the waiter. Yes, that's true. If it had cooled even slightly, it wouldn't have been able to make a burn like that. And if the victim burned his wrist on a hot plate as soon as it was brought out from the kitchen, then he must have already been dead at that point. And yet, the fact is the victim was killed by a gunshot to the chest. Until you're able to show to court evidence to disprove that, this is a complete waste of time. Alright, so we have to prove that it wasn't a gunshot. Arg. Alright, before we go through here, let's look at the post-mortem report. Okay, we can't change anything on that. We've already looked at all these objects. We can look at this, though. Let's look at it. Ah, the symbol of Yume University. Every student wears this pin with pride. It's funny, but most emblems seem to be either round or rectangular. I like the spike design, even though it doesn't really make any sense. Although, it does cause problems. Lots of students end up cutting their fingers on their badges. Perhaps it was the idea of one of the founders. A sharp pen for a sharp mind or something. Alright, can we... yeah. My personal student number is engraved on the back here. If you lose your pen, they won't accept you as Yume student at the university. You may not come in, they say. Of course, you can get a new pen made if you just tell them your number. I've actually lost mine twice already, but I still don't know my student number by heart. What is it? Is it 901 or is it... yeah, it's 901 because the one has the thing. I always say to myself, I mustn't forget to write it down somewhere, but then I forget not to forget that. 901. Okay, that may be relevant at some point. No exit one. If he died from hemorrhage, there's not a lot of blood here. Can we look at that? Examine. Yeah, very little blood. Alright, let's go back. Let's go back. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me. Alright, let's press her.
Yes.
Without leaving a trace. If someone is shot, or strangled, or stabbed, or thrown from a height, however a person's life is taken, there's always telltale traces on the body, not if they're poisoned. Quite right, dear lady. And as our police force has thoroughly examined the body of the deceased, there can be no doubt. Isn't that right, Inspector Hosonaga? As I've said, always aim for a flawless investigation. There would be physical traces with all those causes of death, that's true. But maybe there's some other way of killing someone that doesn't leave a mark. If, heaven forbid, you doubt me, young man, you're going to have to tell everyone how exactly you think the professor did lose his life. Otherwise, I'm afraid your argument falls rather flat, doesn't it? I think he was poisoned. Oh no, perish the thought, calling such a sweet young lady's innocence into question? On my honor, I, Takasuchi Ouchi, will cut down any who dare cast such aspersions. Aspersions, not aspirations. A way of killing someone that leaves no trace. We need some evidence to back us up here. Yes, evidence. But of course, this country's inferior investigations techniques probably wouldn't pick them up on it anyway.
Yes.
Inferior? What do you mean by that? In the lands of the Great British Empire, the police store everything found at a crime scene for later examination. But in this country, you investigate once and that's the end of it. Isn't that so? Quite right. La Carnival is open for business as usual today, just days after the incident. Exactly, which means that even if the investigation takes a different direction, vital evidence may be lost. He's coughing from the poison. It doesn't even occur to your naive detectives to try to preserve the crime scene. I'm trying to be as tactful about this as I can, you understand? Aha, a killer blow. The lady is as formidable as she is beautiful. Amazing. He's actually admitting our police may be flawed. Perhaps Prosecutor Ouchi is finally starting to see sense. I very much doubt that. Still, there's something about what Miss Brett just said. There was a moment before when something didn't seem quite right. What do you think? I think it's going terribly. No matter how much I press her, I'm not turning up any new information. Yes, as I suspected. She's a tough witness. We need to find a way to break her testimony, or the cross-examination will be over. But that would mean I have to find a way. There must be some clue somewhere to help us find a chink in her armor. Kazuma. What, Ryu? There is one thing I noticed, something that's been bothering me. Bothering you, you mean? About Miss Brett? Actually, no. About the person standing next to her, Inspector Hosonaga. The detective? Yes, he seemed to react a little strangely to Miss Brett's last statement. I was wondering if it might be significant, if he might present an opening maybe. Alright, I have an idea. Try pressing her on that last statement one more time. If you think so, but this time, instead of targeting the woman herself, let's see what we can get out of the detective. Alright then. Wonder what Kazuma's thinking. I'll find out soon enough, I suppose, once I press Miss Brett on her last statement again. Okay, last statement. And here we go. Last statement. Press.
Yes.
Inferior? What do you mean by that? In the lands of the Great British Empire, the police store everything found in a crime scene for later examination. But in this country, you investigate once and that's the end of it. Isn't that so? Quite right. Le Carnival is open for business. Exactly. Which means that even if the investigation takes a different direction, vital evidence may be lost. Alright, that's him reacting. Yes, there it is again. The detective's reaction is just the same as before. Why? Up until now, the detective has been in the stand with Miss Brett as an interpreter. But things are very different now. For this testimony, the detective is just listening to what the English woman has to say. This could be a golden opportunity. What do you mean? When people are actually testifying, they're usually very careful not to let anything slip. However, when they're listening to someone else speak, you'll find they often let their guard down. You're right. Look at him. He's lost in his own thoughts. It's time to pursue the man in his train of thought. Sorry? Pursue? I'll explain how to do it now, Ryu. It's all to do with the witness marker. The what now? What marker? Oh, now there's a marker. At the moment, we're focused on Miss Brett, who's the person actually making the current statement. But by moving the marker left and right with A and D, you can turn your attention to other people in the stand. You do realize that you're being very meta right now, like you're breaking character to explain like actual user interface. While you're looking at the other witness, you'll be able to pursue them with space. If you can catch the person at just the right time, you might uncover some new information to pursue. All right, let's do it. If you ever notice a strange atmosphere amongst the people on the stand, take a good look around. All right then. So first I should move the marker across with A and D and focus on the detective. Then pursue him with space to see what's on its mind. Here we go. All right, so she's saying her thing. Okay. Trying to hit D. There we go. And pursue.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. He said, yeah, what's the meaning of this? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to shock you. He really was lost in his thoughts deeply. Looked like you were thinking something just now, Inspector. Perhaps having heard what the lady next to you had to say? If there's something you'd like to say, please share it with the court.
Objection!
What's the meaning of this? It's the delightful English woman who's testifying at the moment. If you can't find fault with her testimony, then the cross-examination should be over immediately. Oh, is that how it works? Absolutely not. The detective is in the stand, which makes him a valid witness. Yes, not to mention the fact he's intimately involved with the case. Inspector Hosonaga, yes? Do you have something to add in relation to the statement just made by Miss Brett? Well, yes. If you don't mind, I would like to speak. The lady is right. Our country's police practices are not as modern as those used in Great Britain, which is why I, Satoru Hosonaga, always try to make every investigation I'm involved in flawless. What do you really mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean. I won't have evidence lacking on my watch. I'm not afraid to take everything I can from the scene of the crime. It's preserving evidence, you see. I don't care if they call me a crime scene thief. I'm not ashamed of what I've done. He took that glass and he got sick from it. A crime scene thief? Well, it looks like the lady's remarks touched a nerve there. Take this for example. This is the bottle of carbonated water that I took to the victim's table on the day in question. That's why you're sick. And yes, it's lost all of its fizz, having been opened 3 days ago now. But it was carbonated water. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, there's some left in the bottle. I can see it. One day our police force will be among the best in the world. The time is coming, I guarantee it. Can't say I condone the witness's actions, but I do understand the sentiment. Court will accept a glass bottle of water as evidence. All right, there's poison in that. Carbonated water bottle has been entered into the court record. The carbonated water the victim and Miss Brett shared on the day of the murder. It was on the victim's table. Miss Brett, can you confirm this is indeed the bottle from which you drank on the day of the victim's death? Yes, it was that bottle. How would she be able to confirm that exact bottle? Well, we'll have to find out next episode. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, please consider a like, a comment, and or a subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to find this poison in this bottle. Stay tuned. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.